Hello, and thank you all for joining us. Welcome. My name is Elsie Burrows with the Travel and Tourism Research Association. TTRA unites the best and brightest in the travel and tourism industry, and we're happy you're with us today. If you would like to learn more or become a member, please visit TTRA.com. Welcome to the TTRA Partner Webinar with Azira. Friendly reminder that we are using the Zoom webinar platform, so please put your questions in the chat and we will try to answer as many as we are able to at the end of the session. It is my pleasure to introduce Kate Zavad, the Vice President of Global Marketing at Azira. She began her career with a theater background, majoring in playwriting in college. Kate's journey into marketing started in San Francisco, where she worked at a PR agency with big clients like Apple during Steve Jobs' return. This experience got her hooked on technology marketing. Over her career, Kate has focused on business intelligence and data infrastructure companies. She has expertise in demand generation, ROI analysis, and attribution. At Azira, Kate leads storytelling efforts for B2B companies targeting shoppers and travelers. She emphasizes the importance of direct customer engagement and aligning marketing with revenue goals. Kate advocates for product marketing to have a seat at the table in developing product and go-to marketing strategies. Today, we will learn how to apply advanced location-based attribution solutions to optimize your advertising spend and drive measurable business results. By leveraging high-quality mobile location data and sophisticated data science, marketers can gain unprecedented visibility into how media investments drive foot traffic, in-market visits, and incremental sales. This webinar will explore the capabilities in location intelligence that allow advertisers to quantify the offline impact of their digital, out-of-home, and connected TV campaigns. This session will help you understand how footfall attribution works and how it can be your secret weapon to secure more campaign spend. Now I'll hand things over to Kate.
Thank you very much, Elsie. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. Thank you.
Great. And thank you very much also to our longstanding partner, TTRA, for hosting us today. I am delighted to be with you and to, as Elsie mentioned, dive into some of the ways that location data can help you measure, optimize, and probably most importantly, prove the real-world impact of both your digital and your offline campaign spend. So let's dive in and explore, as Elsie said, how this powerful set of capabilities can be your secret weapon in navigating today's very complex multi-channel media landscape. Our mission as marketers, and I'm assuming if you join this call, you're probably a marketer or at least are tangential to marketing, is clear. Optimize our budget, our creative, and our channel mix, and use these things to drive measurable action on the part of your customer, or in the case of tourism, your visitor. But with consumers increasingly relying on mobile for discovery, for research, for purchase decisions, for bookings, we face a major challenge, and that is linking digital ad exposures to offline real-world behaviors. Destination marketing organizations in particular often rely on tax revenue to fund their campaigns. So it's critical to show a quantifiable return in order to protect that taxpayer investment. And today we'll discuss how you can overcome some of the challenges inherent in linking these behaviors by leveraging location data to understand and validate the true impact of your cross-channel campaigns. I also, in addition to being marketers, I also imagine at least a few of you are sort of data nerds. So in that case, you've probably seen this movie Moneyball about Billy Beane, who was this revolutionary manager who came to the Oakland A's and really kind of had that world rethink how they use data to optimize their team dynamics, their recruiting, et cetera. But I thought it was still a fun reminder that for marketers, our eyes always need to be on the ultimate prize, which is something like a completed sale or a visit to a location or loyalty, repeat purchase, repeat visitation. Metrics like impressions and click-through rates, they're important. They're good leading indicators. But at the end of the day, the job to be done is to drive actual engagement, whether that looks like visits to your destination or a purchase. And then ultimately from that, long-term relationships. So in the words of the mighty Brad Pitt, your goal should be to buy wins. And the data we are seeing confirms what our customers tell us all the time, which is that one of the hardest parts of their jobs is cross-channel measurement and providing their stakeholders with a complete view of the performance of the media mix. A recent survey from eMarketer found that 44% of respondents struggle with this issue. It is second only to the slowing US economy, and that is not something that Azira can have much influence over. So we're going to focus on the second one. So if you find this challenging, you are very much in good company. So as we move through this presentation, I would like you to just kind of keep this question at the top of your mind. Do you know how each channel or campaign is impacting real-world visitation to your points of interest, to your destinations, hotels, events, airports? We will explore strategies and best practices around how our partners use our technology along with their own expertise and best practices to help their customers maximize and measure foot traffic through precise location-based attribution. So let us roll up our sleeves. Quickly, I want to kind of set context for those of you who don't know Azira about consumer behavior data or location-based data. This is the data that fuels location-based advertising. We get this by aggregating anonymized opt-in data from smartphones and apps. And in doing so, Azira's platform provides real-time insights into consumer visitation patterns, customer profiles and insights, origins, market dynamics. This data supports a wide variety of analyses and use cases, from foot traffic measurement and competitive benchmarking to offline sales attribution. So the bottom line is we want to help you know everything you can about your visitors, about the markets that you advertise to and do business in, about the markets that you might be competing with. And we have other materials that you can explore about each of these various capabilities represented here. In travel and tourism specifically, we deliver these insights via specialist partners who layer on their own expertise, experience, and data drawn from myriad other sources, package them up to provide really specific value to you and your role via their own tailored solutions. And a few of these companies are on the line with us today, and I want to take the opportunity to thank you very much for your partnership with Azira. With location-based advertising, if you haven't tried it yet, you should, because the possibilities are really vast. You can learn where your always anonymized audiences have been, how they spend their time, who they are, when they go, what paths they take to get there. And from that, you can do a lot of inferring about what their intent is. One of my colleagues likes to say, don't you want to know what your visitors are doing the 99, probably 0.5 or 0.9% of the time they are not actively engaging with you and with your brand and with your location? By merging this data with online behaviors and maybe even your own first-party data or data that you're collecting from partners in your market, you can start to build highly targeted, look-alike and act-alike audiences of your best potential visitors to drive both online and offline conversion to a behavior. So let me kind of just try to make this, give you a very sort of practical, simple example about how footfall attribution works. So imagine that a consumer sees an outdoor McDonald's ad, a billboard. We are able to observe that they were in the viewing vicinity of the billboard and then capture that. Because we were able to capture that, they are then retargeted at the right time with a mobile ad, say on their way to work. And ultimately, because of this multi-touch advertising, they visit a nearby McDonald's. You can, of course, extrapolate this example to a hotel, a museum, an airport, an event. And Azira's platform measures this journey by comparing the footfall rate of exposed consumers to that of a very similar looking control group, which provides what we refer to as a very clear attribution lift index. And again, I'll talk a little bit more in detail about how this is created. This method allows us to capture not just who saw what, but the multiple pathways to purchase that consumers might take, ensuring that you can accurately attribute a location visit to both your on and offline media spend. So the way it works is pretty simple. In this instance, out of home, we can draw a very precise polygon around and near a billboard viewing location and see which mobile devices were seen in proximity to that advertisement. For digital spend, we can tell with a pixel when a customer views an ad, either on a mobile device, desktop browser, or via CTV. No cookies are involved, so the platform is not reliant on cookies. And then we can see when that device that is associated with the viewer of the original ad is viewed in the desired physical location within a time frame that you deem, relevant. So the ad impression data is collected from the campaign itself: display, video, audio, digital out of home, native, and then matched to the Azira audience that's been served up with that ad. Yeah. By connecting these digital ad exposures to physical visits, and I think this is kind of goes without saying, because this is kind of why you're all here, marketers can measure the real world impact of their campaign, optimize campaigns to drive a timely visit. I think this one is kind of often overlooked, but if you're trying to drive interest in a particular event at a particular time, or a particular promotion that maybe one of your business partners is running, it's important to be able to track the time of a visit relative to when an ad was observed. And then, of course, all of this is to prove the return on advertising spend. So this goes into a little bit more detail. So as I said, we start by collecting ad impressions across multiple channels. And we can see these in the physical world by polygoning the viewing real estate. If these impressions are from a desktop computer or a connected TV, they are then matched via some proprietary technology that we have to anonymous mobile device profiles. So we can bridge the IP address of the the at-home device on which it was seen to the mobile device that goes out into the world. By mapping these points of interest and using tracking pixels on your websites or on the ad served, we can accurately determine then which devices that we see in the location were exposed to your campaigns. From that, we can calculate an exposed footfall rate, which is the percentage of those exposed devices that were then actually seen in your location. So I think I've hammered that home quite a bit. It should be fairly clear. But this is a really important caveat. And again, get into a little more detail in a minute. But to ensure this attribution lift is robust, we also create a control group of unexposed lookalike devices that serves as a baseline for comparison. So this is a really important step that allows us to calculate the true lift generated by your campaign, the increase in store visits that is directly attributable to your advertising efforts. And that is because the metric quantifies the effectiveness of the campaigns by comparing the footfall rate of the exposed audiences versus that of the people who were not exposed to your ad. And then once you have that information, we'll talk later about how you can optimize various aspects of your campaign and strategies for greater impact. So now let's roll up our sleeves and get into some of the considerations that we work closely with our partners in when helping them set up and deliver footfall attribution on using Azira's location data. First and foremost, reliable measurement begins with high quality data. And I hate to bust out an old saw, but we've all heard the expression numerous times: garbage in, garbage out. So that means building a robust framework for accurate data collection, starting with very precise venue mapping or polygoning, being really clear about what constitutes a visit, building really good representative audience panels, and using a rigorous control group methodology. As I sort of mentioned earlier in the deck, at Azira, what we do is we integrate really trillions of observations from leading mobile apps and SDK providers, ensuring that it's screened, filtered, normalized. We perform fraud detection on it so that we're sure that we're providing the most accurate results, and that we're always maintaining compliance with global privacy regulations. In addition to that, many of our partners use their own data cleansing and fraud detection methodologies that they apply on top of ours, just to sort of double check that the end product that you're getting and receiving is as accurate and as representative as it can possibly be. Next, to achieve accurate results, it is really critical to build measurement panels that are representative of your audience. So this involves kind of striking a balance between the scale, like, just going as broad as you possibly can, and quality, making sure that every attribute of your potential best visitor is checked. You want to kind of strike a balance between those two extremes. ensuring that you have adequate geographic representation, demographic representation, and that your audiences account for potentially fluctuating, varying levels of device activity. Device activity and just the way human beings move through the world is incredibly volatile. It's dependent on weather, holiday schedules, work, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to kind of normalize for that at all times. By creating control groups that match on the key variables that define your customer segments, you can reproduce those visitation patterns that the exposed group would have exhibited without media exposure. And that's how you get a valid comparison. Visit measurement accuracy. I mentioned the importance of our sort of very specific, often hand-drawn geofencing. We do have 70 million points of interest that we have already identified and drawn polygons around, but the more advanced solutions use very precise location boundaries to define a location visit accurately. For instance, in the quick service restaurant space, some stores want to include parking lots or drive-through lanes, some do not. You want to have that flexibility in defining what a location is to you. Additionally, dwell time analysis helps distinguish between what you would consider an actual visit versus just a mere pass-by. Dwell time can vary very significantly depending on the industry that we're serving. For instance, in your world, you may have a very different parameter for what constitutes a hotel stay versus a gas station, where if you're seen for 1 minute, that's a valid visit. So I think the common theme across all of these is you want to make sure that your advertising service provider, and our partners all do this, have the flexibility to set those parameters for you, that you're not just being imposed upon you. Also, incorporating mathematical models is really important to determine the confidence in the observations, because you really want to ensure that only genuine and meaningful visits are counted in these attribution models. And that does require some application of some well-known algorithms to boost kind of the confidence score on the observation. We have a lot of detail on what algorithms we use and recommend, and I will be sending that out in a white paper that will be delivered as a companion piece to this webinar. We touched on this, but since not all visits can be directly observed due to factors like device inactivity or for whatever reason, unavailability, it is essential to use statistical modeling if you're trying to get to an estimate of total visits. So these models, again, account for varying device activity levels, various patterns of location data sharing, whether it's really dense versus really like in rural areas, it might be less dense. And the models that we would use to determine estimated total visits are validated against real-world ground truth data. So actual foot traffic counts. And we constantly need to go back and validate against direct observation to ensure accuracy. So by measuring across all these channels and using common identifiers for in-app impressions that can bridge the ad exposure to the location visit, and you can do that even in cookieless environments. For environments like out of home and CTV that might be one step removed from being embedded in serving up a mobile ad, we have developed a very proven probabilistic matching model. And I think this is where our partners play a really critical role. You want to make sure that you can easily digest and see all of the channel interactions of an individual so that you can get a true picture of what contributed to the visitor's journey. And you want to see, sort of the other way of looking at it is you want to see a holistic picture of everyone that is looking at a particular ad so that you can get a real sense of that ad's reach and effectiveness. So you want to look at it both from the location perspective and from the ad impression perspective. I think this is our last major consideration, but when you're analyzing campaign performance, of course, I think you already know this, it's really important to focus on those metrics that directly tie to whatever your desired outcome is. So visitation rate is a good one. It shows the overall effectiveness in driving location visits. Incremental lift, I talked about before, demonstrates the additional visits generated above your baseline by the campaign compared to the control group. Cost per incremental visit is a really helpful tool to help you assess the efficiency of your spend in generating new traffic. So, these are some very specific kind of KPIs that may or may not extend beyond what you're looking at today. In addition to that, when you start to get into optimization, there are so many dynamics across which you can choose to optimize. So you want to make sure that the media partner that you're working with has the ability to slice and dice the data by geography, by audience, by channel, and lots of other factors so that you can fine-tune your strategy for optimal results. For example, creative, assessing the impact of isolating and assessing the impact of different creative elements of your campaign. Timing, and the frequency, optimizing your message by day part to make sure that it's exposed potentially during a commute, for instance. And again, segment targeting. So looking at that initial group and then fine tuning it based on performance. So again, this is where our partners' expertise, both in integrated, highly visual reporting and also being consultative in what to optimize and how for your specific desired outcome, really comes into play, and we lean a lot on their expertise in the tourism industry to do that. So I thought now it'd be fun to jump into a couple of real world examples from Azira's customer base. This first one is a small town called Elkhart near Notre Dame University. I went to USC, so I don't love a Notre Dame case study, but that's okay. This is a good one. They wanted to attract out-of-town visitors for upcoming football games. Their goal is to drive visitors specifically to hotels and restaurants within Elkhart and then be able to track the actual visitation. So they built very custom audiences using Azira's data sets of out-of-town proven sports fans, so fans that were seen, in the right kinds of sports venues. They targeted rival team cities like Cincinnati, Toledo, and Chapel Hill, and identified these sports fans based on both their digital, like what they were consuming online, and their physical behavior, like were they using sports apps? Did they visit stadiums? Did they tend to go to sports bars? They used creative to promote specific hotel deals and restaurants in Elkhart to really have a strong call to action and impetus for a visit. And the campaign resulted in 3,624 actual visitors who viewed these ads, who were proven to have viewed the ads and then were seen in Elkhart and at Notre Dame. Prior to working with Azira's data sets, they had primarily relied on billboards and printed flyers, which were very effective mediums for them, but very hard to track as those things go. And therefore, this campaign gave them the opportunity not only to get more targeted in who they were exposing their ads to and making sure that they were exposing them to the people that were most likely to act, but also as a result to see actual return on advertising spend. This organization was targeting visitors from Mexico to come to a destination in Texas. And the challenge here is that the actual delivery, particularly of digital ads in Mexico, can be a little bit challenging. The signal can be a little bit weak. The ads load a little bit slower. So they actually set, regionally appropriate goals for that kind of thing. They did really well. They ended up driving 165,000 visits that they were able to pinpoint to 46,000 unique visitors. And I think what is worth mentioning is that this campaign was small-ish. I mean, depending on your definition of small, but they spent about $60,000 at a test, which means they were paying just over $1, about $1.30 for each unique visitor, which is a pretty remarkable return. A slight departure, but I think that this is kind of a cool capability that honestly I hadn't thought of until I saw this application. But this is a popular travel app provider, technology provider, that worked with Azira to understand the links between how people were engaging with the app and then resulting real-world travel behavior. So by analyzing the locations and location patterns and markets of origin of its users before they took an action within the app, I mean, they ring-fenced particular actions to see if those would drive any behaviors. They established a time frame that they considered meaningful from when action was taken in the app to when a visit happened. And being this pinpointed in their analysis, they were able to identify the features and the content that was most predictive of booking a trip. So that allowed them to do a lot of optimization on their platform around the features themselves, and then also kind of tangentially around in-app messaging and in-app offers that were compelling. Finally, a little bit outside of tourism, but kind of similar dynamics, we had an international quick service restaurant chain using our foot traffic insights specifically just to focus on optimizing their outdoor billboard buys. They knew that outdoor was an important strategy to them. They were perhaps struggling a little bit with ascribing visitation to their outdoor spend. And by closely analyzing which placements and which markets were most effective at driving visits to nearby restaurant locations, the chain was able to reallocate its out-of-home budget for a 25% increase in visitation lift. So kind of bringing all of this together, I wanted to kind of leave you with a bit of a checklist that focuses on how our partners turn this data into actionable strategies. So first, always start with high quality, privacy compliant data. That's the foundation. Then make sure you're applying that your providers are applying rigorous cleansing to ensure that the data is accurate and reliable. Make sure your measurement panels are well constructed with representative samples and good control groups that match the samples that allow you to accurately isolate the true impact. You want to be using advanced scoring methodologies to score visit confidence. How likely was it that this person was actually seen there, to get a complete, accurate, and not inflated picture of your campaign reach. There are no shortcuts in math. Our partners leverage very sophisticated attribution algorithms that fairly distribute credit across all of your media channels. So like cross-channel attribution is kind of its own science and discipline in and of itself. And then finally, as I mentioned, you want to have access, and I think this is where our partners, many of them really shine, to very intuitive, visual, interactive reporting or dashboards that, depending on your role, make these insights easy for you to interpret and to, most importantly, act on by your entire team. So as mentioned, our partners are industry experts first and foremost, and have built a lot of really cool, interactive, and very configurable tools to make sure these results are accessible and useful. So taken in sum, these actions can empower you to transform what's really a vast sea of raw data into meaningful outcomes that help you make smarter marketing decisions. Key takeaways. To maximize the value of this exercise, I already talked about the importance of data quality. You want to make sure that you're always taking an omni-channel approach to understand the full customer journey, both online and offline. Always prioritize privacy and ethics. This involves vetting the vendors that you work with, but also checking in on your own privacy practices and making sure that they are up to date with all of the latest legislative and ethical best practices. Embrace advanced measurement, don't be afraid of it, and use these kinds of measurement tools to optimize advertising effectiveness. And most importantly, try to create a culture, if you haven't already, of continuous campaign improvement using this virtuous cycle of kind of continually checking in on all of those aspects that comprise the variables in your campaign performance. And just making the smallest tweaks can really impact your return at the end of the day. So by following these principles and working with partners who follow these principles, you can harness the power of location-based attribution to drive meaningful business results that will give you a competitive edge. And I just wanted to end on a quick slide about Azira, for those of you who aren't familiar. We focus on allowing travel, technology, and media companies and DMOs and brands and agencies to plan and execute location-based advertising campaigns, all from a single platform, one that is, we believe, quite uniquely built on an enormous store of real-time global data about your highest intent visitors and targets. Sky is the limit in terms of the creative ways that you can layer on location information, behavioral information, demographic information, and we provide all of this to build very customized and very attractively sized target segments for you. So, you know, the efficacy of the result starts with exactly who you're targeting and making sure that they're very much in the zone, and that's where we specialize. You can activate these audiences across all channels, and you can rely on us to define and refine that mix for you, or better yet, rely on one of our partners who's really a specialist in your industry. And then finally, as we've spent the focus of today is box 3 over here, we want you to be able to demonstrate very clearly how you have been able to outperform and up-level your advertising using this data by providing easy to understand reports across lots of different dimensions, but always with a particular footfall on how that digital or offline spend is affecting footfall attribution. That's really our bread and butter, and probably yours as well. For more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to info@azira.com, and we will hook you up with a subject matter expert in attribution, of which we have several. My email, which I should have included here, is Kate, C-A-T-E, Kate with a C, @azira.com as well, if you have any questions about what I talked about today. And Elsie, I think that is it.
Yeah, Kate, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. It looks like we do have one question in the Q&A.
Sure. You want
Oh,
to read it to me,
here comes
Jen?
another one. I don't know if you're able to see that, but
well, I bet I could if I got clever.
yeah, I can also read it. But some of these questions we might have you reach out to a designated program
Yes, thank you.
director. Yeah, so we'll see what these are here. And Kate, if you can take it away.
Yeah, what are
do
the
that.
technological limitations on the time window? Right, I think that's a really good question for tourism, because obviously it's going to be a lot longer. Planning travel is a little different from just running out and picking up a burger. I don't know that there are technological limitations, but I will find out and get back to you on that one, Vito. How do we account for the portion market outcomes who are inspired and aware of a destination, but do not arrive after the time window closes? Right. So I think it's, and again, we kind of defer to our partners on what best practice is here. But you know, I think you want to, there's probably really an art and a science to defining a time window that is relevant, but not so far out, you know, that you're still capturing all of the direct influence of the campaign, but that it's not so far out that you can't really correlate that very, very credibly. And I don't quite know what that looks like. So again, let me get back to you. And then your second questions, how are demographics computed from the anonymized location data? We have different sources of demographic data outside of the location data. Yes, usually based on zip code, digital visitation behavior. Again, happy to put you in touch with someone who can kind of walk you through the panoply of data types that we have available.
Yeah, and I'll have Vito's email from registration, so I can send that over to you, Kate.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well,
Thank you, Elsie.
all. Yes, thank you so much. This was fantastic. I'm happy that you could be here with us today. For everyone who's joined, thank you for being here. If you have any further questions, you can always reach out to TTRA. We can help put you in touch with the right people. TTRA members will receive free access to this recording in the coming days. Non-members will be able to purchase this recording for $30. Thank you again, and everyone have a great day. Oh, I just saw one more question come in the chat here. Can you cross-categorize POIs?
That's interesting. I know all POIs are definitely categorized. Can they be like categorized and subcategorized? I don't know, but I'll find out that. I will find that out as well. I imagine you could by region and industry. I think you'd almost have to, but I don't want to tell tales out of school.
Well, I'll help make those connections after this call. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time today. Have a great rest of your week. And thank you,
Thanks,
Elsie.
Kate.
Thanks to TTRA again.
Yes, thank you. Take care.